Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are Minting Coins, your trusted source for crypto news, interviews, and ICO reviews. Thank you for showing up and being here and being a part of today's video. I'm just feeling very, very good, enjoying this day, enjoying what is sort of my vacation at the week after here of my marriage. It's just been a great week, enjoying hanging out with friends, enjoying lively conversations and sometimes debates, and talking about a lot of things that are new and interesting for the world. And I want to thank you for being part of this conversation, for showing up. Hit that like button, subscribe. Feel free to leave any comments as we talk about what we're going to be talking about in today's show. And what we're going to be talking about in today's show is, kind of discussing not just the utility of Bitcoin and blockchain technology, but going over the recent news where Coinbase, Coinbase that we all know and love, has recently purchased Distributed Systems. Distributed Systems is a company, and they focus on decentralized digital identity, decentralized identity solutions, and they focus on really helping to take people and putting their identities onto blockchain so that people can verify who they are, so they can validate, prove, sign off with their own private keys on their identity without sharing the very identity themselves. And so what do we mean about that? So think about every time you've ever applied for a job application. If you're a citizen of the United States, at some point somewhere you need to either enter a social security number or a driver's ID number or a passport ID number. And every time you share those numbers, every time you share that information on an application, credit card information over the phone, over the internet, you put in that social security number, you're giving that social security number over to this third party, and then this third party is taking your social security number and then using that to validate that you are who you say you are. But every time you're sharing that social security number, your credit card information, some sort of personally identifiable information, not only are you verifying who you are, but you're giving it up to somebody to then have that information, and with that they can go off somewhere else, and then they can fraudulently pretend they are you because they have all of the identification numbers that would validate that they are you, because you give it up to scores of people every year, if not hundreds of people every year, that you're giving up this personally identifiable information. This PII, as we call it in digital marketing, and this PII, it doesn't matter if it's an email address or what it is. It's valuable to lots of different people. All of this data about you, all of this information about you, your shopping records, your bank account records, how many kids you have, where you work, what your position is, what you drive, where you live, what you like to do, where you go on vacation, all the different habits about you and things about you is information that can be used to market, or to just to serve the mission and the objectives of whatever organization wants that information for whatever reason why it is that they want it. Typically they say it's to sell you stuff. So with what Coinbase is doing, with this move that they've made by purchasing this particular company, Distributed Systems, they're making a move into the space to be able to work on this technology, to incorporate this technology with their existing infrastructure and their roadmap moving forward. And Coinbase is going to be very strategic about how they not just how they develop this technology, but how they deploy this technology, when they deploy this technology, because they realize the sensitivities, not just the opportunity potential, but the risks of what could go wrong, because these digital identity systems that are supposed to provide superior value and superior security for people and organizations to verify who they are, to protect their information, to validate this information, they really need to protect the anonymity of the individual. They really need to protect the privacy of the individual. They really need to protect the immutability of the blockchain, and the immutability, which is to say, the ability for the blockchain to prevent anybody from changing a record. So if someone can change the record on the blockchain without the proper cryptographic keys, then that blockchain is not immutable. It's subject to attack, it's subject to reversal, and if someone can change the records, then that's not a very secure blockchain. So a very secure blockchain is very immutable, which means we can't go back and change that information. And so, thinking about the value of Bitcoin, thinking about the value of Ethereum, thinking about the value of blockchain technology, when this technology is really meeting up to the definition of what it is, being open source, being decentralized, being truly decentralized, with the proprietary of the information being open source, so it's not proprietary, with anyone being able to update this information, to copy it, to fork it, to be able to contribute to it, to be able to run the code or not run the code, and then for the ability for that blockchain as a worldwide decentralized network, for no one to be able to reverse those transactions, to reverse that data, to reverse that information, in which of this case would be someone's identity, would be someone's information. And it's really easy to see, to use your imagination and to see in your mind's eye how we could be talking about social security numbers, we could be talking about driver ID numbers, we could be talking about birth certificates. This could be extended to things like passports. This could be extended to social media. This could be extended to vehicle ownership, property records, educational records, health records, where you have all of the privacy. Right now you don't. You sign these pieces of paper saying whatever these agreements are between you and these third parties, but really they have all of this information. They have the ability to give this information up to Facebook or to whoever wants this information, whoever they can legally sell this information to. But with these blockchain-based systems, you would be in control of your data, and then if you wanted to share that data with another company, say you're driving a car and they're collecting mileage on how many miles you're driving your car, if you don't want to give up that information, you wouldn't have to, and you could cryptographically secure and verify, right, keyword verify, that information is not being shared with the car company or with the insurance company. But if you did want to give up that information to the car company or the insurance company, then they could cryptographically reward you with some sort of utility token for sharing that information. And then in exchange for you receiving that utility token, which was in exchange of you sharing that information with the car company or the insurance company, you can take the accumulation of that particular token and then potentially trade it in for maintenance on your vehicle, for new tires, for oil changes, for different levels of service and support, for taking care of the needs of the car, of that ecosystem, which everybody is benefiting, which everybody is adding information to a ledger, and where everybody a part of that system wants to make sure that there's not anybody who's cheating the system, who's not paying out the tokens when they should or shouldn't be paying out the tokens, and to make sure that people's information, at the core of this, that people's information, that their private information of utilizing systems and networks isn't just haphazardly given out to everybody or anybody. And this blockchain technology is cryptographically securing these systems. And so when we're talking about the value of Bitcoin, which is, in our opinion, the most secure cryptographic ledger and the first cryptographic ledger that's ever been created, and the way that we quantify that is by looking at the amount of energy that's going into Bitcoin, the amount of computing power relative to other blockchains that's going into Bitcoin, and the different attack vectors that are possible to attack a blockchain, let it be through the developers, core organizations, computational attacks, energy attacks. There's a list of different ways that blockchains can be compromised. 51% attacks, Sybil attacks. There's a list of a plethora of different ways that blockchains can be attacked, and Bitcoin has experienced all of those. Bitcoin has been attacked, every which way and then some, and each of those attacks, Bitcoin has survived. Each of those attacks has made Bitcoin stronger. And it's just very, very interesting for me as a technologist to hear about people comparing Bitcoin to gold. They're just completely different. I love the the analogies. I think the analogies are wonderful. They are completely different. But people who are saying that Bitcoin has no utility, or like people that said gold has no utility. But then over time, people realize gold has all of these electromagnetic properties and properties of conduction. And gold is used on circuit boards that are on the Mars rover and space satellites. And that gold is used for so many different things, not just as a store of value for something that's scarce and seemingly rare so far, but it really has all of this utility beyond jewelry, beyond mechanics, beyond electronics. There's a lot of things that can be used with gold. And if we want to keep the analogy up with Bitcoin, a lot of people aren't recognizing that Bitcoin is more than a token. It's not just a token. This is something that you haven't come to fully understand yet. Please research this more to recognize that you have Bitcoin the token, but you also have Bitcoin the blockchain. In the Ethereum world, there's two different words for this. There's Ethereum the blockchain, and then there's Ether the token. And so in that world, it's sort of separated. A lot of people, especially when they're trying to add all this FUD and confusion between Bitcoin and blockchain, trying to say that blockchain is something different. In the blockchain world, you have Bitcoin the token, but you also have Bitcoin the blockchain. They're two different things. They're both called Bitcoin, but they're two really intimately connected, cryptographically connected, but completely separate things. And the Bitcoin, the blockchain, is, to use the Bitcoin, the blockchain, to take advantage of the benefits of the Lightning Network and the routing of Bitcoin payments and the routing of the computational, contracts that will eventually be happening at a higher level scale on Bitcoin. The ability for anybody in the world to be their own bank, to be running these connections, to be verifying these connections, to be routing these connections, they're going to have Bitcoin. And so, it's really weird to think about because the analogies don't work perfectly. But if you were thinking about the internet days and the telecom days, you have stock in a company, then you can invest into the stock in the company. But there's still all the copper that they're laying. There's still all the fiber optics that they're laying. And with Bitcoin, by owning the Bitcoin itself and by participating on the Bitcoin network, not just holding your Bitcoin in the ETF, not just holding your Bitcoin in a Coinbase account, but actually holding it in your own secure node, you are actually participating in the whole infrastructure, which is not just the stock in the company, but it is the fiber optics, it is the data center, it is the banks, it is the PayPals, it is the Visa. The Bitcoin, the token plus Bitcoin, the blockchain replaces everything that currently exists in between a current consumer with cash or a credit card and the merchant on the other end of that transaction. Right now, everything in between those two parties and all of the third parties, all of the technology, all of the infrastructure, the buildings, the IP, the salaries, the electricity, all of that gets replaced with Bitcoin. All of that gets replaced with blockchain. And so, if we're talking about money, if we're talking about currency, if we're talking about smart contracts, if we're talking about digital identity, if we're talking about property ownership on the internet, if we're talking about property ownership and our identity, all of that is, going to happen in a parallel system between the current system and the future system. So we have the current way of doing things, we have this blockchain way that we're going to be doing things. These systems will be happening at parallel with each other, and then eventually there will be a total replacement, just as we've seen with other disruptive technologies around the world. Cash will probably still exist, credit cards will still exist, banks will still exist, but Barnes & Noble still exists. Newspapers technically still exist. I mean, I heard there's a Blockbuster or a Hollywood Video like 45 minutes that way in Canandaigua by the Finger Lakes. So, these things still exist. They just don't exist at the scale for the number of people in the world who are going to be using them. So with that being said, there's a lot in there. It's just really interesting. Coinbase purchasing this digital Decentralized Identity Solutions company and what their plans are going to be moving forward. It's really interesting to think about the utility of blockchain and the potential of blockchain and Bitcoin when most people just aren't recognizing the potential in the technology, or they just don't understand the potential in the technology. It's going to just exponentially blow up what's possible with the utility of Bitcoin, with the utility of blockchain. And at that point, then the price will be more reflective of the actual opportunity, and we're just not there yet. And that's why there's huge risk right now. That's why there's a huge reward right now. None of this is financial advice, but if you have any questions, leave those in the comments box below. We would love to just see what you have to think, what you have to say. Feel free to check us out on our Discord channel or anywhere where we're out there, seeking to meet up with you and chat with you. Hit that like box if you haven't, button if you haven't liked this video yet, if this helped you at all. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And until next time, I'm glad that together we are minting coins.